Hey there, welcome to my channel. I'm Anita Cooper and I am a fiction writer. Today I'd like to talk to you about a condition that affects me, and I know it affects many other writers out there because it's part of the human condition. It's a little two-word phrase that's known as imposter syndrome. If you haven't heard of it before, what it is the feelings of inadequacy. The feeling that any success that you've had up to this point, or any success that you hope for or wish for, is all a lie. And that you'll be found out as a fraud, and the success that you've had so far means nothing. This can be a very debilitating syndrome. It's like I've discussed before in previous videos about critical voice. It's like critical voice, let's say, took a whole handful of uppers and shot some adrenaline and anything else that can pump you up, whatever that is. I don't know anything about that stuff, but pretty much on steroids, as they say. Very strong, very powerful. It's powerful enough to stop you in your tracks if you let it. And trust me, I've let it. It comes down to acknowledging that it is a feeling that you're having. That doesn't mean, just because you acknowledge you're feeling it, that doesn't mean it's true. That doesn't mean that it's accurate. The mere fact that you're thinking that and feeling that is probably a good indication that it's time to take a look at why you feel that way and take steps to mitigate. Now, before I jumped on here, I took a little look around to see some ideas about how people handle it, how they deal with those emotions. Because as a creative person, we tend to, well, emotions are part of what we do. I mean, emotions have to be in the writing. Otherwise, you're reading a term paper or a research paper. So, one of the things that they recommend is to just write and to talk to other writers about how you're feeling and to look objectively. For example, if you've been published, whether you've self-published or whether you went with a traditional publisher, the mere fact that you're published is probably a pretty good indicator that you're not a fraud. We all have different skills, and we learn our skills and learn the craft at different in different ways and at different what's the word I'm looking for? Different speed. Nobody comes out of the womb as a Stephen King. Sorry. Not going to happen. So, and aren't we glad, I'm going to digress here for a moment, aren't we so glad that his wife made him publish that story that she found, Carrie, I think it was? See, you know, the spouses, we've got to thank the spouses of these writers, or these people that help them, encourage them to publish. But I digress. Getting back to the point at hand, we're talking about the imposter syndrome. A lot of times it can be from uncertainty about what direction your story's going. For example, if you're working on something that you're struggling with and it just doesn't seem to want to flow, and you think, oh, this is total as the English, I think it is, say shite. It just doesn't work. It's normal. It's part of the process. Just remind yourself, tell yourself, this is normal, what I'm feeling. Everybody feels it. It's just something that you have to work through. Just take, as they say, one bite of the elephant at a time, and you will get through it. And then you'll be glad that you're done. You'll have a party. You'll publish. And then you move on to the next story, because that's what we do. We write. Writers write. So, imposter syndrome is something that we all deal with, that we all feel. And it doesn't have to be just beginning writers or even mid-level writers. Even Even high achieving, long-term writers have noted that they feel this way. I think about King of Thrones. Now, I don't watch that. It's not on my radar, but I have heard a little bit about the writer. A lot of people have had problems because he's taken forever to finish the last bit. And so if you can imagine all of the stress that's put down on him, the worries of getting it right to the certain level that he'd published it before, and getting the manuscript done, knowing everybody's waiting for it to be done, I can just imagine the pressure and that's got to be something that can be overwhelming if you don't have a good sounding board. If you don't have other writers or people in the industry who know the process and can help talk you down, so to speak. I can imagine how how that would make you stop you in your tracks to where you wouldn't even want to write another word. And then that's getting to another point. Sometimes the writing just will not come. You'll sit down and you'll know you've got to write, let's say you choose to write 500 words a day or a week or however long. So you sit down and the writing just doesn't come. One of the things I've learned that helps me break through that is to just write whatever I'm thinking. I'll even write, this is stupid, I don't want to do this, why am I doing this, yada yada yada, and I'll complain and nag. Right there, I'll type it out, and eventually it's like breaking a dam free, breaking loose a log jam, rather. It will eventually come. And you'll start writing and you'll be off to the races. We put a lot of stress, the imposter syndrome, like I've been talking about, can put a lot of stress on you to get things done. And it's like these videos. Doing video is, as you probably can pick up on this, watching these, is way out of my wheelhouse. It's not something I'm comfortable doing. I've always been the one behind the camera, not in front of it, so it's difficult for me. I'm just talking to a camera right now. And it should be easy, right? And sometimes it's easier than others. It just depends on my mindset. But point being is that the more I do it, the more, and just like with writing, you just get in there and you do it and you start, and before you know it, you've finished. I didn't really have a huge idea of what I was going to talk about today. I thought I'd talk about like imposter syndrome, which is obviously what we're discussing here. But I also thought about talking about story ideas. How to know if a story idea is something that you can form a whole story out of. Or if it's just one of those bits and bobbles that gets tucked away in the back of your mind that you'll use in another story. I'll save that for another video. But getting back to the imposter syndrome, you break through it by writing, talking to other writers, and just studying your craft. Instead of sitting down and working on your manuscript, maybe you could edit something you've already done. Or if you self-publish, if you've got a book that needs to be formatted, go in and mess with the formatting. Anything that's not creative, so to speak, but more physical, hands-on, you know, we need to do this kind of thing, or work on a book cover if you do your own book covers. Anything to keep the creative juices going, but maybe not necessarily writing. And that is a good way to break loose your writer's block. Or actually, I don't really necessarily believe that there's such a thing as writer's block. It's just I wouldn't say it's because it can happen to anybody, not just writers. I think it is overwhelm. At least it is for me. when I'm feeling blocked about what I want to write, or where I'm at in a story. It's usually because I either have too many ideas, so I can't seem to get them all out. They all sound good, and so I just run around like a squirrel. What works here? What works there? This works? No, we can't use that. Or I'll have a million other things on my mind that I'll think about, and I won't be able to focus. So what I'll generally do is I'll either go do something else and then come back to it, or I'll sit and listen to some music, watch a video. But I limit myself, because it's so easy to get in a time suck, and before you know it, your time to sit down and write is gone, and you don't want to do that. So just writing, talking to other writers, reading writing blogs, that kind of thing, watching a video or reading a story, anything to get you out of that for a little bit of a time period, editing, that kind of thing. Anything that keeps you in the creative mode, but that doesn't require you to create new words, I guess is the way to put it. So that can help sometimes. And also know that it's going to come in waves. Some days you won't feel this at all. Some days you'll feel overwhelmed with the idea of, why did I think I could call myself a writer? You're lucky you can string 2 sentences together. You know? Who would want to read what you have to say? All of these things, it's so intrinsically tied up in self-worth. I think that's probably why writers have a hard time, because we pour ourselves out onto the page. And it's like you open yourself up, you invite yourself to criticism, you invite yourself to the world, and depending on your life experiences, that can be a thrill and exciting, or it can be terrifying, or maybe sometimes a little bit of both. So just know that this is very normal, that every writer goes through it, and just try different things to see, try different things to keep you from stopping the writing, because you are a unique individual. You are created for a purpose, a good purpose, and it's up to you to seek out that good purpose and to do what you were put on this earth to do. And it is my humble opinion that your writing should be out there for the world to see. Keep writing, try different things that will help you to get your writing out there, because out there for the world to hear, if you're doing audiobooks obviously, to read and to enjoy, because you have a story to tell. You're a very unique person, and if it takes you longer to get the story out that you need to tell, then it takes longer. Don't compare yourself. Don't get caught in comparisonitis by comparing yourself to other writers, even other beginning writers, because everybody's different. And just focus on doing the best that you can for yourself. This isn't rocket science. Nobody's gonna die if you write a bad story. It's just a story. Maybe it's junk, but so what? But then again, maybe it's not. It's called practice, practice, practice. Get out there and write. And sometimes you just tell yourself, sit down and say, I'm going to just spend 10 minutes doing this. 10 minutes and I'm out of there. You sit down, you set your timer, you get 10 minutes, and I guarantee you, by the time that 10 minutes is up, you will want to keep going, because you will be in the flow. So, to summarize again, just remember that everybody feels this way. Imposter syndrome is not the end of the world. It can be overcome, but only in the moment. No matter how far you go in your writing career, the longer you are in it, the less frequent you will have these feelings. But that's all they are, is feelings. Just because you feel something, that doesn't mean that it's true. So until then, until next time, keep on writing, because writers write. I'll see you on the other side. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe. It would be awesome. And click like, hate. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up or give it a thumbs down, up to you. But hit subscribe and you'll be notified, and hit the little bell to be notified of future uploads. Until then, have an awesome day. And remember to get out there and write.